HD Nation.
This episode of HD Nation is brought to you by GoToAssist Express. Support smarter with GoToAssist Express. Time to get our HD Nation on. Engadget HD tweeted out Samsung has announced the availability pricing for 2011 HD TVs, Blu-ray players, and home theater in a box. Pretty much the bulk of the lineup on the HD TV side, excepting the D7000 and D8000, hits the streets in March if it didn't hit the streets in February. The 7000 and 8000 hit the streets in April, and everything we saw at CES 2011 should be out by May.
Ooh, it's going to be a good summer. We have requested the 8000. We don't have an ETA yet for it, but it has been requested along with, I want to say, a 7000. We'll probably get the 7000 in first, I'm thinking. And what else?
The 8000 was pretty much the LED LCD flat panel of 2010.
Yeah. And the new D series is looking to be the one to beat as far as edge-lit LED LCD televisions.
I got an interesting question from somebody on Twitter, and they basically wanted to know how the tsunami was going to impact Samsung ship dates. For the most part, it should not impact them at all unless suppliers for Samsung were located in that region of Japan, because Samsung's a Korean company. They do their glass in Korea, they do their assembly, almost all their assembly in Korea. Is any done in China?
The assembly takes place around the world, depending on, like for North America here, it's all done in Mexico and then shipped up to us. Most of the main components are manufactured there in Korea, though. So, if there's a Japanese assembly facility, that's probably
dramatically impacted.
Scaled back at the moment.
But they are a global company, and their glass pretty much comes from Korea. So
good deal. Hey, I have a giant projector sitting on the floor there. I'm gonna go get it.
This is Digital Projections M-Vision Cine 230. Basically, this is what one of the only high-end projectors we've ever shown off, because it's one of the only high-end projectors out for under $10,000.
It is really, really nice.
And this is a sub $7,000 front projector.
That's what it is.
And basically, you start spending this kind of money on a projector to not just get the giant screen, but to get amazing blacks and colors. Did we get the amazing blacks and colors?
Color is what this baby does better than a lot of projectors I've seen right out of the box. Now, this is using a single chip system. That means there's one DLP chip. That's basically a micro mirror device developed by Texas Instrument. Uses millions of little micro mirrors to basically drive each pixel on the screen. The light shines onto that chip. Each little mirror creates that pixel. That light's actually put through, it's white light essentially, and it's put through a 6-segment color wheel. Red, blue, green, red, blue, green. And as that wheel spins, that actually generates the color, and as the chip does its magic, that all gets put together on the screen as such. Now, there are several lens options available for this.
This is the same technology used in my $650 refurbished Optoma HD 180.
It is indeed.
What do you get for the 10x increase in price?
A couple things.
Outside of a new, not refurbished projector.
Definitely more light output. You have a larger lamp system in this. Also, the lens. This is probably where the majority of the money is going to go, and the internal electronics as well. This particular version is equipped with what they call a 1.85 to a 240-to-1 zoom lens, which is pretty nice. It gives you a good amount of screen size adjustment depending on where you put it. It also features what I've come to love, is actually horizontal and vertical lens shift. You actually remove this top panel here, and you can drop in this included little wrench to adjust the image coming out of the projector either left or right. Usually about 50% of the image you can shift it left or right without having to move the projector, or about almost 100% up and down.
Why would I want to do that?
For easier installation. Maybe you have a spot set up that you want to put the projector, yet in order to say, when it's aimed at the screen, maybe in the ideal spot for the projector, it's hitting the screen, only half of the screen is actually being lit up. And you need to move that image down without sacrificing the picture quality. Now, on a lot of systems, you could just tilt the whole projector forward, but you don't want to change the.
Well, when you tilt the projector forward, if you can't move the lens, then you have to do keystoning adjustment inside.
Which you never want to touch digital keystone correction if you do, because the minute you even enable the slightest bit of it, you've cut at least half the resolution of the picture. Digital keystone correction is terrible. Anyway, avoid that. This has manual lens shifting, so it's not automatic. You can't just do it with a remote control. You actually have to pop the top off and do it. That's typically something you only have to do once. So I find it extremely handy to be able to set it and forget it. Now, we were shooting the Cine 230 onto a 92-inch screen, and given this lens setup that gives us basically with a 92-inch picture to fill, we can have about a 10, or for about 12 to 16 feet away from the screen, the projector will have to be.
Oh, nice.
Now, there are other lens packages that could change that. If you need a longer throw, maybe you need to shoot at 20 or 25 feet. You select a different lens package for that. Now, compared to, say, your Optoma shooting to that same 92-inch screen size, the projector has to be in a much tighter range, literally 10 to 12 feet away from the screen. So that's one of the major differences. Also, as I mentioned, increased light output with a projector like this as well. Now, the projector selection of inputs will cover most of your needs. This includes analog and digital connections. I stuck with HDMI for all my testing. Now, when I loaded up SpectraCal's CalMan software driving all my test hardware, I got busy with some measurements. Right out of the box, the Cin230's white balance, it showed okay consistency across the grayscale range. That is, measuring at equal intervals from video black to peak white, essentially it was pretty good. Now, if a display doesn't mix red, blue, and green consistently when generating its grayscale picture, the portion of that picture, you will see discolorations that can affect portions of the picture. This usually occurs in the darkest parts of the picture or the brightest parts of the picture. Like, say, if it's getting too blue in the grayscale in the dark portion, you look into some shadow detail and things take on an overly blue characteristic that's unwanted. You want them to mix consistently from peak to dark. And this actually does provide effective controls for managing that. And I was able to dial this in quite nicely to get a nice linear response across the entire range. And also the display's gamma response. That's a little esoteric. This projector right out of the box, its response is basically the measured intensity of the light across a range of input voltages. And it's a nonlinear function that closely matches the response of the human eye. Essentially what I'm saying there is that an incorrect gamma response can produce a picture that looks washed out, or it's missing or sacrificing dark or bright detail. The Cin230, right out of the box, produced a flatline gamma response at 2.2, if you're curious. That's what CRTs have historically used. That's what the human eye is pretty close to. It turns out that we don't see increases in brightness linearly. And having that match, that curve function, that law function properly, is important to producing a picture that we see correctly. And the Cin230's color gamut results showed me that the projector was almost spot on when displaying fully saturated red, blue, green, cyan, magenta, and yellow colors. Essentially, you match this to the chart that defines HD color. Now, none of the levels were oversaturated. That would result in inaccurate depiction of HD video. You don't want the colors to go off the scale, because then it looks cartoony, and it's not being faithful to the original video source.
It pops in an unfortunate way.
Yes. Now, however, I did notice that with green primary in particular, this is the only one that showed any kind of variance. It was slightly shifted toward yellow, which is not a terrible error, but one you wish you could correct. And higher-end projectors typically include what they call a color management system that would allow me to adjust that kind of setting, but this one doesn't include that.
So what's the bottom line? We're talking about roughly a $6,500 projector?
Totally. Bottom line, it's one of the finest single-chip DLP projectors I've tested in terms of its ease of setup, out-of-the-box performance, and the lens package, which there are several to choose from, and I give it a wholehearted thumbs up. But I would like to see someone do an affordable 3-chip DLP design to match the efficiency and the motion performance of the 3-chip systems you see the LCD and the liquid crystalline silicon, the LCOS folks doing.
Now we have a JVC projector coming up.
Yeah, and that's a 3-chip system. The deal with single chip is because you're shining all of that information through a spinning color wheel, you're only displaying one particular color channel at a time. It's sequential color systems. That can decrease motion performance. So if you're a hardcore sports fan or action movie buff, single chip system might not be the way to go. If you've got the money, you might want to look into some of the 3-chip systems. But like you mentioned, we're going to be taking a look at JVC's. One of their new 3D.
My $650 projector will be smearing?
You know what? It's subjective. And there's also an issue with color breakup, too, which is an artifact you'll see with a single chip DLP system, where if you're looking at highly contrasted picture content, if you quickly dart your eyes left or right on the screen, you will see actually a rainbow artifact in some cases. And if you're some people are more susceptible and more bothered by that than others. That's just one of those artifacts to keep aware of. However, with the right setup, looking at the right screen, and with the good content, this was just a delight. And like I said, one of the best single chip projectors I've ever looked at.
And before anybody freaks out about the price, the last digital projector we looked at was somewhere in the neighborhood of $17,000. And if you think about the fact that you're getting a 120-inch screen out of this, compared to $6,500, plus $1,000 or $2 for the screen, is a heck of a lot less money than, say, $65,000 or $75,000 for an 85-inch LCD or plasma.
Totally. And digital projection and other companies like this that make DLP projectors like to point out the longevity of the product. There's really, except for the spinning color wheel, there's really nothing moving, and the DLPs are about as bulletproof as it gets. So
you will eventually have to replace a lamp.
yes, and that's about it, really. So consider long-term costs when factoring in an expensive home theater product like this. Hey, of course, it's time for the new Blu-ray releases for the week of March 22nd, 2011. First up, Stand By Me, 25th Anniversary Edition. One of producer Serafina's favorite movies of all time, this 1986 film is based on a Stephen King short story and stars Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Corey Feldman, Jerry O'Connell, and Kiefer Sutherland. This region-free release comes in a 1:8:5 aspect ratio, and Blu-ray.com gives the video quality a 4 out of 5, saying the 1080p ABC transfer is solid, all things considered. The film's age is evident, and while the source is in relatively good shape, the picture simply lacks the polish, vibrancy, and absolute crispness of the best new releases. The audio track is available as both the DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 lossless track and the original mono track. Extras include the director's audio commentary as well as an additional feature-length picture-in-picture commentary retrospective with the director Rob Reiner and Will Wheaton and Corey Feldman. Also included is a 36-minute making-of featurette and a Stand By Me music video. Next up, Riddick Blu-ray Collection. While both Pitch Black and the Chronicles of Riddick have been released on Blu-ray before, both separately and as a 2-disc set, they're now releasing another version of the series, perhaps to stir up interest for the long-awaited third live-action film. Unlike previous releases, this collection includes the first HD release of Dark Fury, the 35-minute made-for-DVD animated film that segued the 2 live-action flicks. The collection comes in a VC1 codec across 3 50GB discs, one for each film. There are extras on each disc, and while they are extensive, there's nothing that's not included in the previous releases of each film. So while this does seem to be the ultimate collection for Riddick fans, if you're like us and would prefer to disown the sequel, you could probably give this one a pass. Also released this week, The Venture Brothers, The Complete Season 4. This Adult Swim cartoon is one of Roger and my favorites, and it's right up there with South Park and Family Guy. Season 4 was released on DVD in 2 parts, but the Blu-ray release gets the whole thing on one package. And not only one package, but one single disc. All 14 episodes are contained on a single 50GB disc with a VC1 codec and a Dolby True HD 5.1 soundtrack. Unfortunately, according to High Def Digest, cramming 387 minutes onto a single disc might not have been such a good idea. Quote, "The problem isn't the sometimes thick rings surrounding characters that make them appear glowing. It isn't the few random speckles or the cheap animation that has the Sphinx logo stationary and hover above some clothing articles instead of changing angles with them. The problem is artifacting, and holy shit, it's everywhere," unquote. So that's disappointing, but there are some decent extras, including an audio commentary for every episode, 28 minutes of deleted scenes, and a 3-minute Comic-Con promo, and more. And as always, check out our show notes at TechZilla.com or HDNation.tv for the rest of this week's Blu-ray releases. It's time to thank one of our sponsors, GoToAssist Express. There are a variety of tools in the market that let you remotely work on another person's computer, but the only one I trust and rely on is GoToAssist Express, brought to you by Citrix. Why? 3 reasons. Exceptional performance, it's easy to use, and security. No IT maintenance or updating is required, and it's so fast you'll be viewing your client's computers and troubleshooting in seconds. Plus, support clients' computers even when they are away from their computers. TechZilla viewers can try GoToAssist Express free for 30 days. For the special offer, visit GoToAssist.com/TechZilla. That's GoToAssist.com/TechZilla for a free trial.